The sanctuary fell into a horrified silence as whispers swept through the flower-adorned pews. Hannah Lopez stood paralyzed at the altar in her ivory lace gown, the delicate fabric with sheer sleeves accentuating her generous curves, her dark skin radiant against the white. Her fiancé Peter had just stepped back from her, his voice slicing through the sacred space with venomous clarity. "I can't marry you like this. Everyone can see. You didn't even try to lose the weight." The guests erupted in gasps and murmurs. Hannah's hands shook as she gripped her bouquet of white roses, tears streaming down her cheeks, beneath the delicate tiara perched in her flowing dark waves. Humiliation crashed over her in suffocating waves. She wanted to vanish, to collapse, to escape this waking nightmare. Then a voice shattered the chaos, deep, accented, like commanding, "I will." Every head whipped around. A man in an impeccable black trench coat over a tailored suit stood at the back of the church. His Korean features were striking and severe, a dark, intricate tattoo visible on his neck. His eyes locked onto Hannah with an intensity that stole her breath. Seon Min, the most feared name in Chicago's underworld, walked down the aisle with the confidence of a man who had never been told no. "I will marry her," he repeated, his gaze never wavering from Hannah's tear-stained face. "Right here, right now." 3 months earlier, Hannah Lopez adjusted the floral centerpiece in the private consultation room at Blissful Moments, the premier wedding planning company, where she worked as an assistant coordinator. Her long dark hair was swept into an elegant updo, her curves highlighted by a fitted burgundy dress she'd chosen for its professional polish. At 26, she'd mastered the art of moving through spaces that weren't designed for women who looked like her, carrying herself with quiet grace despite the judgment that followed her. "Hannah, you're taking the Min consultation," her boss, Veronica, announced without looking up from her phone. 2 o'clock sharp, corporate client. Extremely high profile. Do not screw this up." Hannah swallowed the retort rising in her throat. She never screwed up. She was the one who salvaged disasters, who remembered every guest's dietary restriction, who worked overtime without complaint for a fraction of the credit. "Of course, I'll prepare the consultation suite now." The Min file was strangely minimal. Business event. Budget. No limits specified. Client requires complete confidentiality. Hannah frowned at the sparse information, but transformed the consultation room with her signature attention to detail. Cream roses arranged just so, crystal water glasses positioned perfectly, ambient lighting warm but not romantic. At 1:57 p.m., the mahogany doors swung open. Hannah looked up from her tablet and felt the air leave her lungs. The man who entered didn't just walk into a room. He claimed it. Korean, mid-30s, with razor-sharp cheekbones and obsidian eyes that swept the space with calculated precision. His black suit was clearly custom, probably worth more than her car. 2 men in matching dark attire flanked him like shadows, their postures radiating controlled threat. "Mr. Min." Hannah approached with her practiced professional smile, extending her hand. "I'm Hannah Lopez. I'll be coordinating your event." His gaze traveled over her, not with the leering assessment she'd endured too many times, but with a thoroughness that made her skin flush warm. When his hand enclosed hers, his grip was firm, deliberate. "Seon Min," he said, his accent subtle but present. "The formality isn't necessary between us." Something in his tone sent a warning pulse through Hannah's veins. She'd grown up in Chicago's rougher neighborhoods, where you learned to read danger like a survival language. This man was dangerous, but her mounting credit card debt and her grandmother's unpaid medical bills didn't care about her instincts. "Mr. Seon," she adjusted smoothly, "please make yourself comfortable. May I offer you anything? Coffee, tea, sparkling water?" "Water, thank you." He followed her into the consultation room, his security remaining stationed outside. The moment the door clicked shut, His entire bearing shifted, relaxing by a fraction, like a predator choosing not to strike. You're wondering why someone like me needs a wedding planner. Hannah settled into her chair across from him, keeping her expression composed. I'm here to provide whatever service you require, Mr. Seon. Your motivations are entirely your business. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Diplomatic. That's refreshing. He leaned back, those penetrating dark eyes studying her with unnerving focus. I need to arrange a wedding, but it won't be a conventional one. Hannah's pen hovered over her notepad. I'm not certain I follow. A strategic arrangement, he clarified. It must appear authentic to outside observers. Venue, flowers, ceremony, guests, everything flawless. But the bride and groom will not be emotionally invested in the union. This wasn't the strangest request Hannah had encountered in the wedding industry, but it ranked high. Mr. Seon, I should mention that our company has ethical guidelines. I'll pay 5 times your premium package rate, he interrupted, his voice steady. Plus a personal consulting fee for you, $150,000. Hannah's heart stopped. $150,000. That was her student loans erased. That was her grandmother's mounting hospital bills handled. That was stability she'd only dreamed of. But her grandmother had raised her with principles that didn't bend for convenience. Why me? She asked, instead of accepting immediately. Seon Min's expression softened, almost imperceptibly. Because when you look at me, you see a person, not a predator. And because you need this money desperately enough to consider my offer, yet you possess enough integrity to question it. That combination is extraordinarily rare. Hannah held his gaze. A lifetime of being overlooked, dismissed, and underestimated as a plus-sized black woman had taught her to recognize when someone truly saw her, not just her appearance, but her essence. This man saw her. The realization was both unsettling and strangely intoxicating. I'll need complete transparency, she said finally. Full details about what I'm involving myself in. Seon Min's smile deepened, revealing perfect white teeth. You're involving yourself in a business merger. 2 organizations forming an alliance. The wedding serves as a public symbol of unity. Nothing criminal will occur at the event itself. The careful wording revealed everything he wasn't saying. Organizations, alliance, merger. The expensive suits, the security detail, the air of controlled menace. It all crystallized into understanding. She was sitting across from a criminal, possibly a very powerful one. I need 24 hours to consider, Hannah said, rising to her feet. Her hands were steady, her voice calm, but her mind raced with implications and possibilities. Seon Min stood as well, extracting a matte black business card from his inner jacket pocket. 24 hours. Use this number. He paused at the door, turning back with an expression that made her pulse quicken. Miss Lopez, I meant what I said. You're different from anyone I've encountered. So that's why I selected this company after I observed you coordinating the Children's Hospital Charity Gala last month. He'd been watching her. The revelation should have terrified Hannah, but instead it sent an unexpected thrill down her spine. You were at the gala? Hannah stared at the black business card on her nightstand for exactly 23 hours and 47 minutes. The embossed numbers seemed to pulse in the dim light of her cramped studio apartment, a silent challenge that both terrified and tempted her. Her phone buzzed. Peter's name flashed across the screen with a text that made her stomach clench. Babe, did you meal prep for the week? Remember, wedding's in 4 months. You promised you'd take this seriously. She dismissed the notification without responding, her gaze returning to Seon Min's card. In $150,000. Freedom, security, a chance to stop drowning. At exactly 1:59 p.m. the next day, Hannah dialed the number. He answered on the first ring. Miss Lopez. I'll do it, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. But I have conditions. I expected nothing less. Meet me tomorrow evening. I'll text you the address. The line went dead before she could respond. The address Seon Min sent led Hannah to a restaurant in a part of Chicago she'd never visited. An unassuming building in a neighborhood that seemed to exist in its own pocket of reality, where storefronts had Korean characters she couldn't read, and the people on the sidewalks moved with purposeful discretion. Hannah smoothed her navy wrap dress as she approached the entrance, her heels clicking against the pavement. A man in a dark suit, one of Seon Min's security detail from their first meeting, opened the door before she could reach for the handle. "Miss Lopez! He's waiting." The interior was intimate and elegant, with warm wood tones and soft lighting that cast everything in amber. The restaurant appeared empty, except for Seon Min, who sat at a corner table positioned to survey the entire room. He rose as she approached, and Hannah noticed he'd removed his jacket, his crisp white shirt revealing the muscular frame beneath. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "I took the liberty of reserving the entire restaurant. I thought privacy would be appreciated." Hannah settled into her chair, hyper-aware of his proximity. "That seems excessive." "Privacy is never excessive in my line of work." He poured water into her glass with careful precision. "Have you eaten Korean food before?" "A few times. I'm not an expert." "Then let me guide you." His eyes held a warmth she hadn't seen in their first meeting. "If you're going to plan a Korean wedding, even a business one, you should understand the culture." Over the next hour, Seon Min introduced her to dishes that arrived in waves. Bulgogi that melted on her tongue, kimchi with complex heat, japchae with delicate glass noodles. He explained each dish with genuine enthusiasm, his dangerous edge softening into something almost approachable. "You eat like someone who appreciates food," he observed, watching her savor a piece of perfectly marinated beef. "Not like someone who's afraid of it." Hannah paused, her fork midway to her mouth. "Should I be afraid of food?" "Many people are. They treat it like an enemy instead of nourishment." He leaned back, his gaze direct. "Your fiancé, Peter, isn't it? He makes you feel that way, doesn't he?" Hannah's hand tightened around her fork. "How do you know about Peter?" "I make it my business to know about people I work with." Seon Min's expression didn't hold apology. "The question stands." She should have been furious at the invasion of privacy. Instead, she found herself answering honestly. "He wants me to lose weight before the wedding. Says it's for the photos, for our future." The words tasted bitter. "He bought me a meal plan subscription for my birthday." Seon Min's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "And what do you want?" No one had asked her that in longer than she could remember. Again, Hannah set down her fork, meeting his intense gaze. "I want to be seen as more than a number on a scale. I want to be valued for what I do, what I create, what I offer the world." Her voice gained strength. "I want to stop apologizing for existing in a body that doesn't fit someone else's expectations." "Then stop apologizing." Seon Min's words were simple, absolute. "You are exactly right as you are, Miss Lopez. Anyone who cannot see that is blind." Hannah felt something crack open in her chest, a wall she'd built brick by brick through years of cruel comments and sideways glances. This man, this dangerous stranger, with secrets written in the tattoo on his neck, saw her more clearly than the man she'd promised to marry. "The wedding," she said, needing to redirect before she revealed too much. "Tell me what you need." Seon Min smiled slightly, as if he knew exactly what she was doing. 6 weeks from now, 200 guests. Half will be associates from my organization. The other half will represent the family I'm aligning with. He slid a folder across the table. "The bride is named Ji-yeon Park. You'll meet her once to coordinate details. She understands the arrangement." Hannah opened the folder to find a photograph of a stunning woman with sharp features and eyes that held secrets. "And the two of you?" "Have never met beyond business negotiations." He paused. "This is purely strategic, Miss Lopez. A merger that benefits both organizations, nothing more. What kind of organizations? Hannah needed to hear him say it. Seon Min regarded her for a long moment. Chot, the kind that operates in spaces where law and necessity intersect. I won't lie to you about what I am, but I also won't burden you with details that could endanger you. His hand moved across the table, stopping just short of touching hers. All you need to know is that I will never allow harm to come to you because of this arrangement. You have my word. The word of a criminal? The question escaped before Hannah could stop it. The word of a man who keeps his promises. His eyes never left hers. Which is worth more than you might think. Hannah believed him. God help her, she believed him. Over the following weeks, Hannah threw herself into planning the most complex event of her career. She met with Jeon Park exactly once, a tense lunch where the other woman made it clear she had her own reasons for the arrangement and expected Hannah to execute flawlessly without asking questions. Seon Min chose well, Jeon said as they parted, her expression unreadable. You're stronger than you look. Hannah wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a warning. The planning consumed her days, but her nights belonged to Peter's increasingly demanding texts and calls. He'd noticed her distraction, her late hours, the way she no longer flinched when he commented on her portions at dinner. One evening, as Hannah was reviewing seating charts in her apartment, her phone buzzed with a message from Peter. I bought you something. Coming over. He arrived 20 minutes later with a wrapped box and an expression that suggested he expected gratitude. Hannah opened the door, exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. What's this? She asked, accepting the package. Open it. Peter's smile was tight. I've been thinking about your wedding diet. You've been stressed, so I wanted to help. Hannah unwrapped the box to find an expensive set of portion control containers, each labeled with calorie counts and meal suggestions. A gift receipt was tucked inside showing the date, 2 weeks ago. He'd been planning this while she was drowning in work. Peter! I know you're busy with this big client, he interrupted, stepping into her apartment uninvited. But we can't lose sight of our goals. 4 months until our wedding, Hannah. You promised you'd take this seriously. Something in Hannah's chest went very still. She looked at the containers in her hands, then at Peter's expectant face, and finally down at her own body, the curves he treated like a problem to solve, the weight he saw as a character flaw. She thought of Seon Min's words. You are exactly right as you are. No, Hannah said quietly. Peter blinked. What? No. Her voice grew stronger. I'm not doing this anymore. Hannah, come on. Don't be dramatic. I'm trying to help you. Help me? The laugh that escaped her was sharp, edged with years of accumulated hurt. You've spent 2 years making me feel like I'm not enough, like I need to shrink myself to deserve love. She set the containers on the hallway table with deliberate care. I'm done shrinking, Peter. His face flushed red. Are you seriously breaking up with me over diet containers? What the hell has gotten into you? Self-respect. Hannah walked to her door and opened it. Get out. You're making a mistake. Who else is going to want you? You think you have better options? Peter's cruelty crystallized into pure venom. Good luck finding someone who'll overlook your weight. Get out. He left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Hannah stood in the hallway of her apartment, shaking with adrenaline and something that felt startlingly like relief. Her phone was still in her hand. She found Seon Min's number and typed, It's done. I ended it. His response came within seconds. Good. You deserve better than someone who doesn't recognize your worth. Hannah stared at the message, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. Then she noticed the 3 dots indicating he was typing again. Tomorrow. 2 p.m., my office. There's something you need to know. The address Seon Min provided. led to a high-rise in Chicago's financial district. Hannah rode the elevator to the 23rd floor, her reflection in the polished doors, showing a woman who looked simultaneously terrified and determined. Seon Min's office was all glass and steel, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. But Hannah's attention was immediately captured by the woman standing beside his desk. Asian, late 20s, with an athletic build and eyes that assessed Hannah with professional calculation. Miss Lopez? Seon Min rose from his desk, his expression serious. This is Yoona Kim. As of today, she'll be accompanying you whenever you leave your apartment. Hannah's stomach dropped. Nah, I don't understand. Seon Min exchanged a glance with Yoona before pulling a photograph from his desk drawer. He slid it across to Hannah. The image showed her leaving her apartment building, taken from across the street with a telephoto lens. Someone had circled her face in red marker. This was delivered to a rival organization 3 days ago, Seon Min said, his voice carefully controlled, along with information about your role in planning my wedding. Hannah's hands went cold. What does that mean? It means someone is trying to identify my vulnerabilities. His jaw tightened. It means I underestimated how closely my movements were being watched. It means I've put you in danger, and I intend to correct that mistake. Yoona stepped forward, her demeanor professional, but not unkind. I'll be discreet, Miss Lopez. You won't even notice me most of the time, but I'll be there. This is insane, Hannah breathed. I'm just a wedding planner. I'm nobody. You're working for me. That makes you somebody. Seon Min moved around his desk with predatory grace. I gave you my word that you wouldn't be harmed because of this arrangement. I keep my promises. Hannah looked between them, the reality of her situation crystallizing with terrifying clarity. What kind of danger are we talking about? The kind that won't materialize if they believe you're under my protection. Seon Min's hand moved to her shoulder, his touch gentle but grounding. Yoona is the best. You're safe with her. And if I say no? If I want out of this whole arrangement? Something flickered in Seon Min's eyes. Disappointment, perhaps, or resignation. Then I'll pay you what we agreed. Say plus compensation for the danger I've exposed you to, and ensure you're protected until the threat passes. He paused. But the wedding still needs to happen, Miss Lopez. Too many pieces are in motion. I'll find another planner, but the event will proceed. Hannah thought of the careful seating arrangements she'd crafted, the vendors she'd personally vetted, the vision she'd built for an event that was supposed to be beautiful, even if it wasn't real. She thought of walking away and leaving it incomplete. More than that, she thought of never seeing Seon Min again, and realized the idea bothered her far more than it should. I'll finish what I started, she said finally, but Yoona stays close. Seon Min's smile was small but genuine. I wouldn't have it any other way. Over the next 2 weeks, Hannah grew accustomed to Yoona's shadow. Seo the bodyguard was true to her word, present but unobtrusive, a constant sentinel who somehow managed to blend into the background while remaining hypervigilant. They developed an easy rapport, and Hannah found herself grateful for the company. But the threat didn't materialize as expected. Instead, it escalated. Hannah was reviewing final vendor contracts in her apartment when her phone rang with Seon Min's number. His voice was tight with controlled urgency. Pack a bag. Yoona will bring you to me. What's happening? We intercepted communication. There's credible intelligence that someone plans to use you to send me a message. His voice dropped. I won't allow that to happen. You're staying with me until after the wedding. Stay with you? Seon Min? This isn't negotiable, Hannah. The use of her first name sent a shiver through her. Please, trust me. 20 minutes later, Yoona escorted Hannah into a private elevator that required a key card to operate. They ascended to the penthouse level of the same high-rise that housed Seon Min's office. The doors opened directly into an apartment that stole Hannah's breath. The space was massive, with the same floor-to-ceiling windows that revealed Chicago sprawling below like a kingdom. The decor was minimalist but warm, with touches of Korean art and careful attention to detail. Seon Min was waiting, his jacket discarded, his shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle. The tattoo on his neck seemed darker in the evening light. "Thank you, Yuna," he said. The bodyguard nodded and took up a position near the elevator, giving them privacy while remaining close. "This is your home," Hannah said. Not quite a question. "It's secure, monitored, safe." Seon Min gestured to the hallway. "There's a guest suite prepared for you, everything you might need." Hannah walked to the windows, her reflection ghosting across the glass. The city lights below stretched to the horizon, beautiful and vast. "How long do I need to stay here?" "Until the wedding. 4 more days." She turned to find him watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "And then?" "Then the alliance is sealed, the threat subsides, and you go back to your life." He moved closer, stopping just within reach. "Hannah, I'm sorry. This was never supposed to touch you." "But it did." She met his eyes. "Why does it feel like you're not just protecting an asset? Why does it feel like something else?" Seon Min's control wavered, just for a moment. His hand rose, fingertips brushing her cheek with devastating gentleness. "Because it is something else. Because from the moment I saw you at that charity gala, coordinating chaos into beauty while everyone else overlooked you, I knew I needed to know you." His thumb traced the curve of her jaw. "This started as business. It stopped being only business weeks ago." Hannah's breath caught. "You're engaged to someone else." "I'm engaged to a strategy, a merger, a piece of paper that means nothing." He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming and intoxicating. "What I feel when I look at you is real, Hannah. Tell me you don't feel it too." She should step back, should remember the danger, the complexity, the impossibility of whatever was building between them. Instead, she swayed forward. "I feel it," she whispered. Seon Min's kiss was nothing like she expected. It wasn't rushed or demanding. It was reverent, as if he was handling something precious and breakable. His lips moved against hers with careful intensity, one hand cupping her face, while the other settled at the small of her back, pulling her closer. Hannah melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt as the kiss deepened. She could feel the controlled power in his body, the way he held himself in check even as desire coursed between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. "I don't have the right to ask this," Seon Min said, his voice rough. "But after the wedding, after this arrangement ends and you're safe, would you consider letting me take you to dinner? As myself, not as a client. See, just a man who wants to know you better." Hannah pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "You're asking me on a date while you're engaged to someone else, and I'm staying in your penthouse under protective custody?" A smile tugged at his lips. "When you phrase it that way, it sounds complicated." "It is complicated." Hannah's hands were still gripping his shirt. She made no move to let go. "Ask me again in 5 days, after the wedding, after you're no longer engaged." 5 days, Seon Min agreed, his thumb stroking her cheek. "I can wait 5 days." But the space between them had already shifted into something irreversible. Hannah knew it as surely as she knew her own name. Whatever happened at that wedding, whatever came after, she was already lost to this dangerous man who looked at her like she was the only person in the world who mattered. She just had to survive the next 4 days to find out what that meant. The morning of the 3rd day in Seon Min's penthouse, Hannah's phone erupted with calls from Veronica. She ignored the first 3, but the 4th came with a text. "My office. Now. Or you're fired." Hannah showed the message to Seon Min over breakfast. He read it without expression, then set down his coffee with careful precision. Go, he said quietly. Yuna will accompany you. I'll handle this. Handle what? Seon Min, I can deal with my own boss. Not when she's being pressured by people who want to isolate you. His eyes met hers. Trust me, please. An hour later, Hannah sat across from Veronica in the cramped office at Blissful Moments. Yuna stationed discreetly near the door. Her boss's face was pinched with barely controlled anger. I've received some very disturbing information about your current client, Veronica began, her fingers drumming on the desk. Apparently, you've been staying at his residence. Do you have any idea how that looks? The liability you're exposing this company to? Hannah's spine straightened. I'm staying there for my safety. The wedding planning is proceeding exactly as contracted. The wedding planning is over. You're off the account. Veronica's smile was sharp. In fact, I think it's best if you take some time off, indefinitely. You're firing me! The words came out flat. I'm protecting this company's reputation. Veronica leaned back, satisfaction gleaming in her eyes. Whatever you've gotten yourself involved in with that man, it ends now. Clear out your desk by end of day. Hannah felt the words like a physical blow. Years of loyalty, of saving Veronica's disasters, of working twice as hard for half the recognition. All of it dismissed in seconds. I'll need that in writing, Hannah said, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her chest. Already prepared. Veronica slid a termination letter across the desk. Sign the bottom. Non-compete clause is highlighted. Hannah scanned the document, her mind racing. The non-compete would prevent her from working in wedding planning in Chicago for 2 years. It was designed to destroy her career entirely. She was reaching for the pen when the office door opened. Seon Min entered without knocking, his presence transforming the cramped space into something electric. 2 men in dark suits flanked him, not Yuna's subtle protection, but an unmistakable show of force. Mr. Seon, Veronica stammered, her composure cracking. This is a private meeting. Nothing about Miss Lopez's career is private from me. Seon Min's voice was silk over steel. He placed a briefcase on Veronica's desk with deliberate care. I'm here to resolve a misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding. Hannah is being terminated. Hannah is resigning. Seon Min opened the briefcase to reveal neatly banded stacks of cash. With a severance package that reflects her actual value to this company. 5 years of unpaid overtime, stolen commissions, and intellectual property she generated that you claimed as your own. He slid a document across the desk. This is an itemized accounting. You'll notice the total comes to approximately $300,000. Veronica's face went white. That's absurd. It's conservative. Seon Min's smile didn't reach his eyes. Sign the severance agreement. Hannah leaves with a glowing recommendation letter, no non-compete clause, and full rights to contact any clients she wishes. In exchange, she won't pursue legal action for labor violations. You can't threaten me. I'm not threatening you, Ms. Reeves. I'm offering you a choice. Seon Min's hand moved to his lapel in a gesture that seemed casual, but carried unmistakable menace. Sign the agreement, or my attorneys will bury you in litigation that will expose every corner-cutting practice and tax irregularity this company has engaged in for the past decade. The silence stretched like a drawn blade. Finally, where Veronica snatched the pen and scrawled her signature with shaking hands. Get out, she hissed. Both of you. Seon Min collected the signed document and closed the briefcase. Miss Lopez, shall we? Hannah walked out of Blissful Moments, with her head high, Yuna and Seon Min's security forming a protective diamond around them. She didn't speak until they were in the car, the city blurring past the windows. You didn't have to do that, she said finally. Yes, I did. Seon Min's hand found hers. You're not just a wedding planner to me, Hannah. You're brilliant at what you do, and you deserve the freedom to build something of your own. He paused. The money in that briefcase is yours. Seed capital for whatever comes next. Hannah looked at their intertwined fingers, emotion clogging her throat. Why are you doing all of this? Because in 2 days, I'm going to marry someone else for all the wrong reasons. His grip tightened. And I need to know that when it's over, when I'm finally free to choose my own life, you'll still be here, building your empire, waiting for that dinner I promised you. The wedding was tomorrow. The thought sat between them like a third presence, heavy with everything unsaid. That night, Hannah couldn't sleep. She wandered through the penthouse to find Seon Min on the balcony, Chicago's lights sprawling beneath him like scattered diamonds. He'd removed his shirt, and she could see the full extent of the tattoo that marked him, intricate patterns flowing from his neck down his shoulder and across his back, each line a story of violence and survival. You should be resting, he said without turning. So should you. Hannah stepped beside him, the night air cool against her skin. Are you afraid of tomorrow? I'm afraid of what comes after tomorrow. He finally looked at her, and the vulnerability in his eyes stole her breath. Hannah, I need to tell you something. The shift in his tone sent ice through her veins. What? The organization I'm aligning with. They're not stable. There's been chatter, intelligence that suggests they're planning something beyond the merger. His hand cupped her face. After the wedding, I'm sending you away. Somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't reach you. Hannah jerked back. What are you talking about? There's the account in your name. Enough money to start over anywhere you choose. New identity if you need it. Protection until the situation resolves. The words came faster, high like he was trying to outrun her reaction. You'll leave tomorrow night. I've already made the arrangements. You're sending me away. Hannah's voice shook with fury and heartbreak. After everything, after making me believe there was something real between us, you're just erasing me? I'm saving you! Seon Min's control finally cracked. Don't you understand? They're using you to get to me. As long as you're in Chicago, as long as you're connected to me, you're a target. I won't let you die because of my choices. That's not your decision to make. Tears streamed down Hannah's face. You don't get to decide what risks I'm willing to take. You don't get to push me away and call it protection. Hannah? No. She stepped back, her heart shattering. You want to know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of finally finding someone who sees me, who makes me feel like I matter, only to have him throw money at me and send me away like I'm a problem to solve. Her voice broke. I thought you were different from Peter, but you're just another man who thinks he knows what's best for me. She turned and walked back into the penthouse, leaving Seon Min alone on the balcony with the weight of his own good intentions. The wedding day arrived with cruel perfection. Clear skies, perfect temperature, every detail executed flawlessly, despite the tension crackling between Hannah and Seon Min. They'd barely spoken since the balcony confrontation. Hannah coordinated the event with mechanical efficiency, her heart encased in ice. The church was magnificent, filled with 200 guests who represented power and danger in equal measure. Hannah recognized faces from news reports, men and women whose names appeared in whispered conversations about Chicago's underworld. They filled the pews in expensive suits and designer dresses, a congregation of beautiful monsters. Ji-yeon Park arrived in a stunning traditional Korean wedding dress, her expression serene and unreadable. She greeted Seon Min with formal courtesy, and Hannah watched from the wings as they took their positions, playing their parts in a performance that would seal alliances and shift power. The ceremony was about to begin when chaos erupted. Ji-yeon's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her composure shattered. Without a word to Seon Min or the officiant, she gathered her skirts and ran. Not walked, ran. Down the side aisle toward the church exit. The guests erupted in confused murmurs. Seon Min stood frozen at the altar, was his expression carefully blank, even as Hannah could see the calculations racing behind his eyes. Then Ji-yeon's voice carried back through the church, breathless and joyful. "I'm sorry, I can't do this. He's here. Marcus is here." A man appeared in the doorway, tall, handsome, clearly not part of the underworld elite filling the pews. Ji-yeon launched herself into his arms, and he caught her, spinning her around as she laughed and cried simultaneously. "I thought you were dead," Ji-yeon sobbed against his chest. "They told me you were dead." The man, Marcus, held her tighter. "I'm here, I'm alive, and I'm not letting you marry someone else." The church descended into stunned silence. Hannah watched from the wings as the carefully constructed alliance crumbled in real time. The guests shifted uneasily, see hands moving to weapons concealed beneath expensive fabric. This wasn't just an interrupted wedding. It was a failed merger, a broken contract that could ignite violence. Seon Min remained at the altar, his posture unchanged. Then, slowly, he smiled. "It seems," he said, his voice carrying through the sanctuary with absolute authority, "that this wedding cannot proceed as planned." He looked directly at the assembled crime lords and power brokers. "Ji-yeon Park has made her choice. I respect that choice." "This is an insult," someone growled from the front pew. An older Korean man, Hannah recognized as Ji-yeon's father, head of the organization Seon Min was supposed to be aligning with. "You will honor this agreement." "The agreement was contingent on mutual consent." Seon Min's voice hardened. "Your daughter has withdrawn that consent. I won't force a woman to marry against her will, regardless of the consequences." The temperature in the church dropped several degrees. Hannah could feel violence gathering like a storm, and she realized with horrifying clarity that this could end in bloodshed. Then Seon Min did something that stopped her heart. He stepped down from the altar, his movements deliberate and controlled. He walked past the assembled guests, past the crime lords whose faces twisted with fury, past Yuna, who watched with hand hovering near her concealed weapon. He walked straight to Hannah. The entire church watched as Seon Min dropped to one knee in the aisle, his hand reaching for hers. "I was going to wait," he said, his voice quieter now, but no less commanding. "I was going to let you go, convince myself it was for your protection, spend the rest of my life wondering what might have been." He pulled a ring from his pocket, not the ornate band meant for Ji-yeon, but something simpler, more beautiful. But watching Ji-yeon run toward what she really wants made me realize something. I've spent my entire life making strategic choices, building power, surviving. And none of it means anything if I lose you. Hannah's hands flew to her mouth, tears already streaming down her face. "I'm done with this life," Seon Min continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm done with the violence, the alliances, the endless chess game of survival. I want to build something real, something clean, and I want to build it with you." His voice cracked slightly. "Hannah Lopez, you are the bravest, most brilliant, most beautiful woman I have ever known. Will you marry me? Not as part of an arrangement or a merger, but because I love you and I want to spend whatever life I have left making you as happy as you make me." The church erupted in shocked whispers, but Hannah heard none of it. She saw only Seon Min, kneeling before her with his dangerous heart laid bare. "What about the consequences?" she whispered. "What about your organization?" "Let them come." Seon Min's smile was reckless, free. "I choose you over everything else. Always." Hannah pulled him to his feet and kissed him in front of 200 witnesses, sealing her answer without words. When they finally broke apart, Seon Min turned to face the assembled guests. "I'm out, effective immediately. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly." His arm wrapped around Hannah's waist, claiming her publicly. "But I promise you won't like the outcome." The older Korean man who'd objected earlier stood slowly, his expression murderous. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed, a rough, genuine sound that seemed to surprise even himself. "You're either the bravest fool I've ever met, or the smartest man in this room," he said in accented English. "My daughter is happy. You're willing to burn everything for love." He shrugged. "Perhaps the young people understand something we've forgotten." The tension didn't completely dissolve, but it shifted. Other guests began to stand, some in anger, some in what might have been respect. Seon Min kept Hannah close as they navigated the chaos, Yuna and the security detail forming a protective perimeter. Outside the church, the late afternoon sun painted everything gold. Ji-yeon and Marcus stood beside Seon Min's car, Shan still holding each other like they might disappear if they let go. "Thank you," Ji-yeon said to Seon Min, her eyes bright, "for not forcing this, for understanding." "Thank you," Seon Min replied, "for showing me what real courage looks like." They parted ways, Ji-yeon and Marcus toward an uncertain future, Seon Min and Hannah toward something equally unknown, but infinitely hopeful. 2 weeks later, Hannah stood in the center of her new office space, paint samples spread across a table that was still wrapped in protective plastic. The storefront was small but perfectly located, with huge windows that let in floods of natural light. A sign leaned against the wall, waiting to be hung. Lopez Events, where every celebration tells a story. "The emerald green," Seon Min said from where he was studying the paint samples. "It brings out the warmth in your eyes." Hannah laughed, walking over to loop her arms around his waist. He'd traded his tailored suits for jeans and a simple sweater, though he still moved with that predatory grace that marked him. The tattoo on his neck was partially covered by a turtleneck, a concession to the legitimate business world he was trying to enter. "How was your meeting with the property management company?" she asked. "Productive. They're willing to let me start as a consultant, work my way up to a partnership." He kissed her forehead. "Apparently, my organizational skills translate well to legitimate business. Who knew?" It hadn't been easy. The first week after the wedding, there had been threats, tense meetings, just a few dangerous encounters that Seon Min had handled with a combination of negotiation and carefully applied pressure. But slowly, grudgingly, the underworld had released its grip. Seon Min had built too much respect, paid too many debts, to be dragged back against his will. He was free. They both were. "Your first client consultation is tomorrow," Seon Min reminded her. "The Thompson wedding. Are you ready?" "I'm terrified," Hannah admitted. "What if I can't do this on my own? What if I fail?" Seon Min turned her to face him, his hands framing her face with devastating gentleness. "You coordinated a mafia wedding that turned into a public resignation from organized crime, and somehow got everyone out alive. I think you can handle the Thompsons." Hannah laughed despite her nerves. "When you put it that way. Besides," he continued, his thumb stroking her cheek, "you're not alone. You'll never be alone again." The ring on her finger, the one he'd given her in the church, caught the light. They hadn't set a date for their own wedding yet. There was too much to build first, too many new foundations to lay. But the promise was there, solid and real. A knock on the door interrupted them. Yuna entered, carrying coffee and a box of pastries from the Korean bakery 3 blocks over. "Thought you might need fuel," she said, setting the items on the table. She'd transitioned from bodyguard to friend with surprising ease, and Hannah had already hired her as head of security for Lopez Events. Turned out that high-profile clients appreciated having protection that could also coordinate logistics. "You're an angel," Hannah said, reaching for a coffee. "I'm practical," Yuna grinned. "Plus, Seon Min pays my salary, and he made it very clear that keeping you caffeinated is a top priority." They spent the afternoon painting, the 3 of them transforming the empty space into something vibrant and alive. Music played from Seon Min's phone, and at some point, it devolved into a paint fight that left all of them laughing and covered in emerald green. As the sun set, casting long shadows across the half-painted walls, Hannah stood back to survey their work. It was imperfect, chaotic, still unfinished. It was also hers, built with her own hands, on her own terms, with people who saw her worth. Seon Min came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking about the woman who stood at that altar and let Peter humiliate her," Hannah said quietly. "I'm thinking about how small she felt, how convinced she was that she needed to shrink herself to deserve love." She turned in his arms, meeting his eyes. "I'm thinking about how far she's come." "You've come," Seon Min corrected. "You did this, Hannah. I just had the privilege of watching you become who you were always meant to be." She kissed him as the last light faded from the windows, the city coming alive with evening lights beyond the glass. Somewhere out there, Peter was probably still judging women by numbers on a scale. Ji-yeon and Marcus were building their own escape from expectation. Veronica was scrambling to keep her business afloat without Hannah's talent to prop it up. But here, in this half-painted office that smelled of fresh possibilities, Hannah Lopez had everything she needed. A business she'd built from nothing. A love that saw her completely. A future that stretched ahead with terrifying, exhilarating freedom. She was no longer shrinking. She was no longer apologizing. She was exactly right, just as she was. And she was finally, beautifully home.